Gaming is going with an interesting tactic. They've come out with new players, Peng and what was his name? Is it only
Juan.
Juan? Juan?
Juan.
Juan? Yeah, Juan. Yeah.
I don't know how it's pronounced, I'm sorry.
And so they're coming out with new players. They're doing actually rather well. So all right, let's start off with. Actually, I shouldn't even add my opinion on that. That's already influencing our guests here. Kelsey,
I love your inner
are they
monologue.
doing
Man.
well?
It just makes the show.
Are they doing well, Kelsey? Okay, Kelsey's
You
dead.
just killed that. You just
Kelsey's-
killed Kelsey.
I feel like Peng and Xuen are the Xiaoxi of mid lane and AD carry. We like them because they're better than the people they replaced, but they're still not like super good. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Peng had some moments. So
Do you think that we've had enough of a, how do I put it, enough of a sample, I guess, to really judge his plays, or is he already showing himself to be much better than Hitong? I guess that's the real question. Is he better than Hitong, or at least can we reliably say that?
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think in the games that he did play, it did look like a strict upgrade over Hitong. Same goes for Xuan, but maybe to a lesser extent, just because Endless did have some good games here and there. Either way, he wasn't a great AD carry within, the region as a whole, like comparative to other top AD carry players. But like VG did look better to the extent that I think that these players are enough of an upgrade that it could secure a top 7 or 8 spot for playoffs, where otherwise I feel like that was a huge risk for them. But at the same time, I feel like as you mentioned, the sample size isn't quite good enough. I think their set against Snake was okay, but like the Snake that the set that they looked most dominant in was against King, which doesn't really say much, I guess. I don't know. Like if he actually watched the set, it was just so bad that the 2-0 didn't really like mean much. And so I don't know. The Snake set is the only one I can reliably really gauge them based off of, because even in the M3 set it was a little wonky from M3 playing, and I feel like it's just not really a good enough sample size, I suppose. But it does seem like they should make playoffs with this roster, I feel.
I think it might not even be that Peng and Xuen are necessarily better so much as Mata and Dandy might feel like they're better. So the team play overall has improved, because it's like they were stagnating and they didn't really have anywhere to go. So maybe just like changing out these players gives them a little bit of hope.
I feel like that's something that's like that Vici has had quite a bit, because it wasn't that the same reaction that we've had with Endless when he came in for Vasily. And maybe is the question really that Xuan is he better than Endless, or is it just like a honeymoon period in which we feel like he's better, and then in which we just start to like, I don't know.
I also want to say that it is hard to gauge. It is hard to gauge one, just because in the King games, like I was mentioning, the ones they did really good in, I feel like the team filtered a lot of resources to stomping down Name, which made him look a lot better, just because there were so many members of VG in the bottom lane, and it kind of got Xuan like really far ahead. So I don't know. I mean, the thing is that we're gauging him on his like first week of play versus like Endless over the last few weeks, right? And I think there's always going to be an adaptation period. So if he's doing better now, I feel like that bodes well for like his rate of growth, but I could be wrong.
Keep in mind that they've played 6 games, which is a third of an LCS split.
Well, all right, we're going with the
So if we
Ocean
can't make
Gang
judgments based on that, what can we judge?
Please. All right, so here comes the real question. I feel like it's a bullshit question to ask if Vici has a chance at Worlds, but how much of an improvement is this? Where do you think they'll land in playoffs? I'll start with Emily, actually.
I think they'll make playoffs. I mean, the thing about this team, like watching them this week, I thought that it's always still going to be about like Mata first and then Dandy second, only because he's in the top lane.
Yeah.
Still, like I hate to I always hate to say good things about World 6 because I feel like there's a whole contingent of people waiting to jump down my throat and be like, Dandy should be in the jungle, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I actually think that World 6 has not only, like, been one of the best, like, sub-junglers that we've seen in China this year, but he's actually improved throughout the split. So, I mean, I have to give him credit for that. Like, and obviously we've seen a lot more of him than we have someone like ZZR or Xiaoxi, but I do really like him. I think in terms of team fighting, his team fighting is pretty good. Like he had a couple of like really awesome Gragas casks actually, that then Mata was able to follow up on really well. So I think it all depends on how well Mata and Dandy can kind of like manipulate the team. I don't see them having a chance at going to Worlds though. I only see them making playoffs and not really going far in playoffs, unfortunately, just because I think their competition is just going to be so much stronger that it's going to be really tough for them to make headway against the upper teams.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like we talked about the new playoffs, like the new playoffs run, and since they would be a low seed, it'd be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
I don't think World 6 is necessarily improved, because I think he's always just been good at Gragas, but I think that their team fighting overall as a unit improved just because I feel like Punk can hit like an ultimate more than 50% of the time. I'm unwilling to say that Shuan is a strict upgrade based on the games, but I haven't really seen Pung just do something awful or terrible at all. So I think that's like a reasonable sample size to say that he is an improvement, given that I think Katong would have by now. But he's had some pretty good Azir play, he's had some pretty good Victor play, and I don't know, I think he's pretty solid given the circumstances. And I think that the fact that we can say, yeah, I think they'll make playoffs now, as opposed to before when I felt like they were almost surely going to drop to unlimited potential, I think that's a good thing. That says something in and of itself, even if it's not something to write home about.
Yeah. So here's the question I'm going to pose to you, Michael, because I don't even want to have a discussion when it comes to Vici even getting to Worlds. But here's a real discussion that I feel is like a real struggle for them. Will they beat M3 if this set happens in playoffs? Let's say 8th, 7th place goes off, and it's M3 versus Vici. Current M3, current Vici.
Because M3 has a new support too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Raw, if everyone doesn't know, who is a jungle support main, a jungle top main. So he played Aurelion Shen in 2 of his first 4 games. God bless.
Yeah, dude, I'm waiting for him to pull out Pantheon support, man.
The moment he literally just first picked
Jarvan.
Like, first game, he was like, alright, we've got Rua, what is he gonna pick? Really, I'm like, wow, he's just really starting off this one with like shiny colors here.
He won that game, God bless.
Yeah, he did.
Though he won his Jana game too, so...
I feel like it's so close that it's like hard to tell, just because I feel like if M3 does secure their playoff spots, maybe they'll take the playoffs a lot more seriously than the regular season, but you can kind of say the same thing for players on both of the rosters.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, I think Ruo's like overall been pretty good. Like, I feel like his laning was actually pretty strong in his Shen game. Like, when he decided against in the 3v2 situation that he could still get a kill, so he went into trade, and so they got a 1-for-1 out of a 3v2. But then after that, like when it started getting to later in the game, he just kind of went a little bit special, and it didn't work out too well then. But I mean, that's kind of like the downside of having those kind of like unconventional supports also. But I kind of want to go with M3 like in a close set. I feel like, I mean, because like sure, Vici has upgrades in those positions, but they're not like hugely substantial upgrades, and like we've been discussing, I think it'll be enough to push them into a guaranteed spot in the top 8. But in terms of their performance when they actually get to those playoffs, I still have concerns over it, because since they haven't really had extensive practice with these new members, which I think is more crucial than just swapping out Love CD for Ruo, then I think that's going to become an issue too when it comes to a best of series.
See, I actually think it'll be Vici. The reason why I think it'll be Vici Gaming is because I think that M3 will rely on Dade going off, which happens like 50% of the time, whereas I feel like Vici has made improvements that were shown in all 6 of their games. Even though they did go 4-2, so they didn't like have a completely dominating set. Though going 2-0 against King is something that people haven't done other than IG pretty much. Like IG is the only team that hasn't dropped a game to King the entire season. So it's King is obviously not like a super exciting team, but actually going 2-0 against them has not been easy. So
Okay, Emily?
I think, and this is going to kind of piggyback on what Kelsey said, but I think it comes down to the fact that I don't see M3 coming up with a game plan to improve. Like, right now, everything goes through, obviously, Condi is super important to that team, and then Dade. Like, if Dade can kind of carry them to victory, whereas I think because Vici, like to Mike's point, they've been together for a lesser amount of time, but with Mada and Dandy, kind of like the only way they're successful, like similarly, is if those two are controlling the pace of the game and dictating the pace of the game. And I think that they, like last split, they found a really good method of working around their weaknesses to a point. So in terms of matching up those two teams, I also think that Condi is slightly better than World 6, like in terms of jungling.
So am I hearing an M3?
I'm still with Vici, but I do think that Mastery 3 looks better with Raw, not because I just think because Love CD kind of like Xiaoxi towards the end had problems or not Xiaoxi, Chuen had problems where he would just like get caught out. And the Love CD was previously their shot caller, so I don't think we've seen I think we've actually seen a slight decline in macro play, because...
Yeah, definitely, because they got like really far ahead against QG actually in one of their games, and then they just kind of like threw it away near the end. So I could definitely see that being an issue. Because like that is another reason that I think that's another point towards Vici. Like I still kind of hold my opinion that M3 comes out slightly ahead, but that is a solid point just because before M3 would, like Condi would go ham and M3 would get really far ahead early on through just early pressure and ganks, and then they'd snowball off of that. But I would say in their set against Crowd it was a little bit concerning because they would get all of that off and then still fail to close out the game, which kind of looked like King circa spring split problems, you know? Yeah, so that is a bit of a concern, I suppose.
And I think that they excel when they could find places to set up fights, and that's something that they were doing much better, even though Love CD would get caught out. I think it's like a really hard decision to make because you have this guy who's getting caught out a lot, but at the same time he understands how to manipulate the team into situations where they can succeed, which is like these fights where Dade can excel in the late game. Whereas I don't see them doing that as much now with their leads, though Raw I think is a mechanical upgrade to Love CD, though his champion pool might be questionable. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think this pretty much, oh god, I feel like it's basically mechanics versus macro. And just like the acquisition of Raw just really multiplied that factor. So I think it's going to be 5 games, 4, and I'm probably just going to end up taking it for M3. But even though I hate M3, sometimes you just gotta, like, who cares anymore? Like,
I always gotta bet on the consistent team, even if their consistent level is pretty shit.
Yeah.
I gotta bet on the consistent team. So
it's all about gambling.
So Vici Gaming it is.
All right, now let's move this topic over to OMG. Well, this is great. So, like recently, an amazing Reddit thread came out. amazing. It's truly just embodied
It almost
like.
made me quit again. Please stop.
Like I actually just I don't read anymore. But okay, so so actually, Kelsey, I think you know a lot about this. Or so just run it through us, the rumors, the drama, like just circling OMG right now, or at least what you know of it.
Sure. So the big thing. So the Reddit post to put you guys just on the same page as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
There was first a Reddit post that said that. There are a couple Reddit posts. The first Reddit post said something along the lines of UZI and GoGoing are moving to Vici Gaming, and that Vici Gaming was going to trade them for Vasily and Mata. Which, right away, if you know anything about OMG statements, you can say, okay, OMG has very recently, as of like a month ago, said they will never get Korean. So they could possibly be very quickly changing their mind, but the likelihood of that happening seems like almost laughable. So them getting Mata is already suspicious. Second, if you know that GoGoing is actually very loyal to OMG, and one of his bigger problems has actually been his commitment to the game and his work ethic, rather than so much not wanting to play for OMG, or OMG just choosing to play Xiong over him for no reason. So the likelihood that GoGoing will leave OMG is actually pretty small. There have been a lot of rumors about GoGoing leaving OMG before, and it's just not something that seems likely to happen. And then from there you kind of go, okay, maybe like Vasily liked OMG's group page, that's somewhat plausible. UZI unliked or unfollowed all of OMG's Weibo pages and all of the OMG players' Weibo pages. So maybe UZI will leave for Vici Gaming. Seems like a good prospect. Mata played with Imp, whatever. Imp, UZI, obviously the exact same player, right? Okay. Obviously, easy changeover, perfect situation. Okay, even if that, whatever.
Let's not get into another rant. It's just like an inception of rants, just going deeper and deeper.
Let's talk about it. Okay, I'm just going to be calm. I'm going to not have derision in my voice, because obviously if you don't have a lot of information, it's easy to kind of believe these sorts of things. But the problem is that, like, from sources, UZI's buyout is pretty high, and it's not something, so it's probably not going to happen that UZI is going to go to Vici. Vasily going to OMG, if he did so, it would probably just be as a streamer. So that's the situation we are now. OMG actually also said UZI has a 3-year contract. They also said it doesn't necessarily mean he won't play. Like, I can actually see Cool leaving the club at the end of the year and them building a team around UZI instead of Cool. But it's just like, people don't leave OMG. It's really weird that Dada7 even left OMG. Once you go to OMG, you're like a lifer. It's a very strange situation.
You signed your soul off to the devil.
You hang out in the club, and like they give you jobs to do PR work, and they've said that they want to create like positions and careers for players after they're done playing. So it's almost like they're holding on to the players afterwards and saying, "We are helping you. Here, you have a beautiful life. You just can't play anymore." No.
You must stay with us until the end of time.
I'm not going to go by starting more rumors, but I don't think it's likely that he'll be leaving OMG, at least not for Vici. So the next post that came out, okay, was the one where the UZI fans, it was in reaction to OMG's statement that UZI still has a 3-year contract, because apparently the OMG Weibo was kind of the tone. I don't really speak Chinese, but even people who weren't in that thread were telling me that the tone is like pretty passive aggressive kind of towards the fans who are being mad about UZI not playing. And they said that UZI is not playing it has a contract for 3 years, so he's not going to Vici effectively. And people said that, oh my gosh, the Cool is a terrible like Grand Emperor, which the original Emperor, OMG Emperor meme came from San. They used to call him Emperor San because they thought he must be very important to the club because they wouldn't replace him and they just kept replacing supports. So again, we have the evolution of another Chinese OMG meme.
Oh, here we go.
this time referring to Cool instead of Sin. They're saying that he controls the club, he dictates what happens within the club, he doesn't want to play with UZI, so UZI is benched forever and his career is over, and OMG is now the most hated club in China. Absolutely, OMG is playing so much more shit than they did with UZI with North, and everything has gone terrible. The end. So that's catching it up, and Emily had a very nice statistical analysis of North versus UCI, so I'm going to let her cover that.
All right, Emily.
Okay, yeah. So this made me kind of upset because, not because I'm like a huge North defender or anything, but I think that the fact that they've been playing worse with him is patently false. So basically, in an LPL, OMG have like basically a 50% win rate with North. If you combine it with their Demacia Cup performance, it gives them an overall 13-8 record. So it's actually a 62% win rate. Obviously, some of those you have to consider, like one of those series is against Hyper Youth Gaming, which, as lovable as they are not like up to par with LPL talent, obviously.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about
Are you
Hyper
talking
Gaming?
about make it into LPL?
Not up to LPL snuff?
That
You
they're
say
not
that again in a
LPL
couple months?
standard?
Say that in a couple months, Emily. All hell, Raphael.
If that
And
team makes
YOLO.
it into LPL, I don't even know. Okay.
I love Hyper
Thought you
Youth
heard enough
Gaming.
YOLO jokes here. My God.
Hold on, I guess...
Official
No,
LPL.
okay, it's back. Never mind. We're good.
Official LPL YOLO jokes coming to a stream near.
Yeah. I actually love Hyper Youth Gaming. I have such a soft spot in my heart for them. They're such a fun team.
Hyper Youth Gaming apparently attacked our stream temporarily, so anyway. They were mad that we were bashing their team.
Playoffs just like completely blew my mind because
I
I was
just
like,
could not believe that they made playoffs.
I was so surprised.
Made it to the upper bracket finals.
Yeah.
I was like, every time they were against someone, I said, yeah, you know, W Future's probably going to win this. Yeah, you know, Young Glory's probably going to win this. And then, okay, well,
oh wait, back actually,
here we
Emily.
are.
Emily,
As their jungler would say, YOLO. Anyway, we're not talking about LSPL. Back to OMG.
So basically, we'll include the Hyper Youth Gaming games then. So basically, if you look at teams within, and obviously there's more games to look at, but if you look at teams within LPL, OMG right now, they have a 50% win rate. Without UZI, like including the Demacia Cup records, they have a 62% win rate with North. The only teams in LPL overall that have a higher win rate than that, obviously, they're actually tied with Snake for the 57%, but then QG is at 63%, and then EDG is obviously like kind of the untouchable team right now. We're going to talk about them later, but at 72%. So basically, it just frustrates me that I don't feel like OMG is performing like super, super better with North. I don't think having North on the team like solves all of their problems either. But I think that saying that they've been playing like shit since UZI has not played is patently false. Like, it's actually statistically false if you're just looking at statistics and not doing an eye test. And if you are doing an eye test, I'd actually argue that they do look a lot more cohesive with North simply because he doesn't demand as many resources. So you can give more resources to Loveling. You can give more resources to the new Grand Emperor Cool if you want to. And that
Father
works.
Emperor, I think is what it is.
Father Emperor Cool. Sorry.
I mean, I feel like
Cool to DDoS the stream.
Don't make
I feel
me
like this is a
post
fine.
Cool to GIF because you messed up his hated
So
nickname.
basically, like, I mean, like, I actually like Uzi. I don't hate Uzi. Like, I think it's sad. Like, I honestly think it's sad that he's playing right now. I think he's an excellent AD carry. And I think whatever is going on in OMG, it's obviously very messy and, like, not fun. But I think, like, their actual in-game issues as a team, a lot of it has to do with drafting. A lot of it has to do with Xiang's champion pool. It doesn't have to do like with benching Uzi. And like
It
obviously
really, yeah.
we don't really know like the context behind like because they came out and said his hand was injured and we honestly don't know like the context behind all these rumors. All we know is they do look better with North. I mean, like that. I guess that's a subjective opinion, but my opinion is they look better with North, and there's a really good AD carry on the bench, which is unfortunate.
This is literally
There's
the
technically
definition.
two like pretty good AD carries on the bench because San isn't playing either, and that's not as much of a travesty as UZI, but it's like this team that everyone used to say had like a terrible AD carry just because San wasn't as good as his team. And San is still like San would still be probably a strict upgrade to half the LPL teams.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
So,
Yeah,
but
sure.
like saying that, it's just like suddenly OMG is kind of the team with the most unused AD carry talent.
Yeah. And it all really comes down to, like, this whole decision really does feel like the most, no one will know the real reason, like, of course, fully, the real reason of what's going on behind the teams, because it really comes down to comms. Because everybody knows, or at least it's pretty much common knowledge, that UZI is a pretty high-maintenance person. High-maintenance guy. He, like, if, like, you follow through how he's played, or at least...
Yeah.
It's just his career, yeah. Like, through his Starhorn Royal Club, the man was extremely high maintenance. Had so many... There's so much drama going on within that team. But you know what? They stuck it together and they got to the finals, and God bless, like, something shined on that team that month or so. But they went through it. And so now you put them on a different team in a different scenario in which, obviously, the team doesn't rely on that one person. So they don't do, or at least look to adhere to his whims, etc., etc. And I obviously, like, I'm not trying to stick a personality. I'm just saying that if, like, it really comes down to the fact that no one will truly know what is going on. But saying that UZI was underperforming it's not true. He was doing extremely well, but like the difference between his play and North's play is like it's not like I don't think that. I think North is playing extremely well, sure, and I think UZI was playing extremely well. And it just really came down to the fact that I think North is probably just more of a flexible person. In comms, out of comms. That's just my opinion.
So,
And I think...
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say that I think that a lot of that isn't just due to North being the better option because of his like being tactically better with the team and how the resources are distributed, but it's also just like the game's current status is not favoring Uzi's playstyle right now too, which also kind of puts the advantage towards North. Like I feel like the disparity in skill would be not significant, but enough to where keeping Uzi would be good in just about any other meta. But I mean, we already had the issue in the beginning of Uzi being possibly the biggest resource hog of any AD carry going onto a team that has statistically above all other teams given less resources to their AD carry, especially in that region, right? So
yeah.
The split was statistically the highest gold percentage of any AD carry in LPL.
It was already a very unfamiliar environment for him, and now like you pick Uzi in your team because you want him to win lane and then crush later on in the game with his mechanics, but you can't really do that. You can't really get ahead right now and then 1v5 the enemy team. And I mean, just because of the strength of AD carry relative to other roles, even, not even just because it's unfamiliar with the team, although both of those things compounding together is what makes North a better choice. And obviously, as we already mentioned, like the biggest problem with OMG is honestly Jiang and his champion pool. So either one of them are kind of doomed from the start from their... Well, I shouldn't make it sound so dramatic, but it's hard to gauge them as a team, like saying... Oh, does Uzi or North make the team better when there's like an anchor that's like the weakest chain automatically bringing them down, you know? And so I don't know.
So I'm going to give, mine is going to be less about like how the team looks and stuff and more a historical account of the drama that has plagued OMG independently and UZI independently. And I'm going to say that this is kind of like throwing the meanest mean girl in high school into a sorority full of catty sorority girls. So it's like, I don't know.
So are we calling Uzi Regina George?
Kind of, but it's
I wish I understood that reference.
She doesn't quite understand the movie Mean Girls. She doesn't quite understand like the pool that she's went into. She was like a big fish in a small pond, and suddenly there's a bunch of sorority girls who have been like had big personalities and all this other stuff. So we've got UZI joining this brand new sorority. Let's look at some of UZI's past transgressions in the Royal Club organization. So season 3, I've heard this before, but very almost auspiciously, as if like a gift from the heavens. Ackerman's video information came out, and he confirmed like from another source that I had heard that this was going on, is that Tabe, when he chose to retire halfway through season 3, because he actually retired twice, once at the end of season 3 and halfway through, that he retired because UZI was being extremely toxic and used to like criticize him all the time, and he only came back from retirement after UZI promised that he wouldn't direct his toxicity at him anymore, so then Lucky became the target.
Oh my god.
Wow.
This is the most hilarious.
That's so sad.
Spring season 4, the only like semi-decent player on that Royal Club roster was the jungler KMI, so he was the target of UZI's toxicity because he had expectations of him. Ackerman also said in his video blog that this toxicity actually motivated most of the players to be better. I don't know. He said that he wasn't really the target of a lot of it, neither of White, so I'm not sure how Lucky and Tabe feel about
feed
that.
me and save me, otherwise I'm gonna poison your cereal.
Oh my god.
Motivation.
Motivation.
But yeah, he also said that UZI moved to mid because he wanted to move to jungle because of Meteos. But then he moved to mid, and TNT was on 80. And anyway, I'm not going to go down the Ackerman video log train right now. Ackerman, the equivalent of Link in China. The next...
Wow.
So the next season we have... After the KMI incident, he gets Insec as his jungle. Regardless of the details of what happened at the end of the season, like them fighting physically or not physically, which I don't think there's actually evidence to support that they physically fought, and I think I covered that before, but they were arguing. They did not like each other. Like almost everyone will confirm that they did not really get along, and they fought over team stuff a lot. And Zero actually had this account, and Chobra talked about it on Summoning Insight, where he actually functioned as like almost the intermediary between UZI and Insec, because if UZI was having like a bad game or if he was behind and Insec wanted to make a play, he would have to tell Insec, no, we can't do this right now, UZI cannot handle this right now, or things like this. Or like he would, because UZI would try to shot call in Chinese because he wasn't really comfortable shot calling in English, so Zero would have to translate it to Insec and all this other stuff. So like Zero effectively ended up functioning as like the middleman between these two people, so they didn't kill each other. And Zero was also the one who came out on Facebook and said stuff like, "Oh, it's okay. Lucian jungle is actually a thing in China," because we have like the episode where they pick Lucian, right? And then UZI follows up and picks Vayne because he's really mad in that XCS tournament, right?
Yeah.
And they lost. So, I mean, do we really believe that they were testing out the strategy with Lucian jungle? Probably not. So,
No.
I mean, there's a track record that we're seeing of like UZI being kind of a drama queen going through. This split, even OMG said, you know, UZI is toxic in game, but outside he's like really a nice guy. Like they even made that comment, like in Spring Split, they said like he gets upset and angry in game, but outside of game he's like a sweet child. So, like there were obviously already problems in Spring Split. And then we saw and then of course like going through OMG's track record in history. Okay, so I don't know. There are so many stories and rumors going back all the way from the beginning, but I'm really only able to confirm a few things. Like obviously, there's been much more stuff translated into English about UZI because I think UZI has like a larger following overall. But things like, apparently, like something that people found like photographic evidence was that Pomelo didn't want to play support anymore because San stole his girlfriend. They then going into season 4, like everyone criticized Pomelo, so he took a step back as jungle, and he didn't want to play support, so he didn't move back into the support role. So they picked up Cloud. Cloud and Loveling fought very publicly during scrims. Cloud like had a habit actually apparently on stream while dueling with Death shit talked Heart. TT came out and said that he had nothing. Their ex-coach, OMG's coach, had nothing to do with Cloud's benching. OMG was like a clique. No, he said like OMG was like a clique that didn't listen to him. So they were like kind of, you know, there's this Western team sort of. Apparently they really started cracking down and listening to their coach this year, but they didn't really listen to TT. TT didn't have a lot of respect in China, right? Mm-hmm. He was kind of like a joke coach. Like he used to coach IG for a while, remember? Mm-hmm. So he was not really respected a lot. And that's a big organizational problem, right? If you have a coach that is not respected by the players.
Yeah.
But they didn't really listen to him. He didn't really have much of a say, is what he said, and they chose to bench Cloud and play with Dada. San apparently always wanted to play with Dada. Like, that was his thing, is that, like, he really wanted to play with Dada for whatever reason. He was like, give me Dada, we'll win lane. It's like, okay, you're not winning lane, what now? Like, what are we supposed to do with this? Now we have all this other stuff where cool, like, okay, this is the confirmed stuff on stream, was talking to Clearlove and said, I can't carry my top and bottom lane, they suck. UZI fans screen cap it, show it, post it on UZI's Weibo. UZI apparently gets mad, though the OMG organization said, cool, apologize, and they forgave each other, and then UZI, like, coincidentally broke his hand. And North starts playing for the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Cool.
The other thing that is
his
like,
hand really was
apparently
broken.
Chinese speakers who listen to the comms say that when Cool and Loveling get tilted, they stop speaking Mandarin Chinese, okay? And they start speaking in the southern dialect, because the two of them are from the same hometown, right?
Yeah.
If people didn't know that, they're from the same... They start speaking the southern dialect that no one else on the team understands, which... Like, what is the point of having an all-Chinese team if you don't all speak Mandarin? Like,
yeah.
Good God. That's
people do forget.
That's supposed to be your advantage, is that you all speak the same language.
Yeah.
God damn it. And so, just things like that. And so I think, like, I almost feel like they put Loveling back on the team, and Loveling was may have been arguing with UZI because Loveling has a very strong personality. I almost feel like they put Loveling back on the team because in all this history of drama, Cool doesn't have like much of a figure in this. People always describe Cool as kind of quiet. Mm-hmm. But, you know, this is also the first time when he hasn't been center stage, right? So maybe this was an issue and he was just like tired of listening to UZI. I like, again, this is pure speculation, but I almost feel like they brought Loveling back on the team to placate Cool, and then like this recreated like the sorority environment. And then more conflicts with UZI began to rear their heads. So that's why, like, they pulled out Loveling and put in Joy Joy when UZI was on, because it's like, okay, maybe we can, you know, offset this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really weird. Like, both of these teams have a history of kind of, like, infighting and drama that is really difficult to say, so...
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we put enough time in OMG. As beautiful as it is to talk about this team,
but
you can
anyway,
talk
I guess my point of all that is that you can't just blame one side. I don't think it's possible to blame just one side for them not getting along. Like, I think if looking stylistically, UZI is a massive gold hog, OMG doesn't really distribute a lot of gold to San. Looking at the history of drama on the team, UZI creates drama, OMG is like a very click-based team. Just like, based on this information, I don't think, like obviously hindsight is 20/20, that this was a good decision, so... It sucks that it's almost like it was doomed to fail and you kind of have to pick one or the other.
I don't know. I mean, going into OMG forming the super team to begin with, there was a lot of questions as to whether or not this team can really be cohesive. Not even being cohesive, but be flexible. Everyone just be flexible with, like, playstyle just to play as a team, and it just never worked out. It was just something that people were like, okay, this is kind of like an obvious obstacle, and I guess the obstacle was too large. Personalities can do that. So speaking of flexible, because now we got to move on, because time is a factor.
Okay.
Clearlove had a birthday, because you know what? He's a human being. He has birthdays. Everyone does.
Best
Oftentimes.
transition. So we're going on to like pretty much like the biggest shit show to like the biggest fluff. Like this is what's happening.
Just like dialing it down from everybody just like feeling salty about OMG to now Clearlove, the lovable bear. But you know what? I overuse the term bear, I think, because I'm literally just about to use it when we get to Shall We Shall. So, Clearlove, he has a birthday. Yes, I've already stated that. So he had a really, really, really amazing. I don't know if vignette's the right term, but it was like a very just a video of like, and hurrah, like his family. Oh, specifically his mother came on stage as well. So, like, that was actually really interesting. Actually, I want to talk about, like, do we want to talk about... No, I don't think we have the time to talk about Clearlove's history.
I mean, it depends on if you're talking about his history with EDG or if we're going back to World Elite. That's what depends on if we can talk about it or not. Because it's quite extensive if we go very far back.
I feel like we should just have a Clearlove episode, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd actually be down for that.
Phoenix, well, like, Mike and I still have to have our great Messiah debate, so...
Yeah.
Which...
You can, like, see how long the...
I feel like Clearlove will be a very common topic in the Messiah debate, because my big thing is that I rate Clearlove over Messiah even on WE, which...
Well,
yeah.
And I mean, like, part of the reason the two work so well together... Okay, never mind, we're gonna go to the
Yeah.
I'm done. I was just gonna say,
so
Clearlove was passive initially because Messiah, blah blah blah,
yeah,
but, you know,
well, so inseparable as a unit. Like, it's really interesting, but...
Alright, settle down, gentlemen. Okay, so basically, it's been mentioned, it's happening.
Sorry for being so hyper.
It's official. Clearlove episode. Probably next episode. You know what? No, it's gonna happen.
Well,
Well,
And
next episode is also...
It's the last week of regular
week,
season,
so-
right? So
It's before
Yeah.
the last week, so I don't know. Maybe, like, after...
we'll make it when time's not of the essence.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe
There we
after
go.
I get back from China or something. We'll see.
Oh, see, that's gonna be beautiful. Come with your China swag.
The one with strong lungs
Okay.
is off to China.
Yeah.
Seriously?
We're all not tough enough.
I think we should hit it off with the last topic of the day. Well, actually, depending on whatever random outbursts we have. Elo boosting. This is a pretty big subject that's been coming out of NA right now since Shao Wei Xiao has gone back to China since he seems to be he's been temporarily suspended, indefinitely suspended, I suppose, for admitting that he has Elo boosted while on tip. So, I guess we should probably have this discussion as to why Xiao Xiao has actually gone back to China. It makes so much sense. He's chosen the industry that has more money. Essentially, he's gone back to China so he can become a full-time Elo booster. I'm glad he's made this decision in his life. Okay, now let's have a serious discussion. So, how do we want to start this off, Kelsey? Yeah, I guess Kelsey, since you have a lot more insight when it comes to Elo boosting in the region, China. So how is it? How strict is the ruling when it comes to that?
Well, you see, China is the only region where no one has ever been punished for Elo boosting, so it's just completely unheard of. No one ever does it. Ever.
Yeah.
Completely. It's just so clean.
Just
No,
a superior culture.
Elo boosting in China is actually pretty extreme. I don't know exactly who is Elo boosting, but I think if you look at regionally, Taiwan are really strict on Elo boosters for some reason. They ban a lot of people for Elo boosting when they shouldn't necessarily be this strict. I think they want to look like extremely clean. China doesn't really ban anyone from elo boosting because it's just like really hard to even approach it. Like, there's just a lot of elo boosting in China. To an extent, there are like even elo boosting houses where they have like some not pros for sure, but like owners will pay people to live in the house and do like elo boosting accounts, and they're like these rings of elo boosters. Like, it's something that's problematic, but I mean, I can't say like it's definitively more extreme in China than anywhere else in the world. But elo boosting is a problem in China just like it is anywhere, and I think that it's just like not really punished because it's so difficult to tackle in China in terms of the complexity. So when Xiao was like, yeah, I really need to educate myself on this topic, like, I think that's true. Like, as a player from China, he really needs to educate himself on elo boosting because it's just like not something, it's just something that happens. I don't know. So, it's weird. And like the account sharing, there's like a lot of account sharing also, especially among pros, which is in some ways is considered elo boosting, because if you're playing at like an account that's a rank below that your account, you're technically elo boosting. So, I mean,
I do remember it was an interview, forget with who, it was a Liquipedia, what is it called? Liquid Legends, there we go, God. That was a Liquid Legends interview in which he said, and I guess the question was, they're asking Xiao if it was his account in which he's gotten to like top in Chinese solo queue or something, and I guess his response was that it was actually a shared account, and so you can really understand how like it happens. It just like
I'm pretty sure that some of the Korean accounts are shared. That were given to Chinese pros, just because like not every pro was given ones. They were shared. There are definitely like shared accounts. Xiao also said he got to the top by duoing with FCZF, which is like coincidentally one of the most mechanically gifted support players in China. Regardless of whatever other criticisms of his playstyle you have, like, he's definitely really a mechanically gifted player, so the fact that he managed to duo with FCZF and magically got first on the ladder is not that shocking. So.
And I also think that it's a matter of perspective, not just in the sense that it's more heavily monitored in NA and you're perceived as more villainous for doing so than in China, but just because, like, the things that go on, at least that we know about publicly, from NA compared to China are just like leaps and bounds different. So when you compare elo boosting in China to something like changing your age so that you qualify for a Riot tournament or something like that, like straight up changing your ID or something like that, like those kind of things happen. And I think as a result, it kind of pushes down elo boosting in terms of like how we perceive it, or at least how China perceives it too. Just because, like, I mean, there's like a hierarchy of like shit that's going on in China where elo boosting is just so much lower, even though it's probably a lot more persistent, and even just like in a per capita sense, not even just because like China is more populated, so there's more elo boosting, like just as a ratio of elo boosters in China versus NA, even though that probably is higher, it's just not seen as criminally, I suppose. And not to mention, like, Zhao was very like apologetic and understanding when he did elo boost in NA, despite the fact that there was differences. So it's not like he was using it as an excuse or anything, but it is understandable why he would not perceive it to be as bad as others would.
Yeah.
I think it's like kind of telling that he said, I think he was apologetic and he was like, oh, you're right, I messed up. Probably had some idea, because I think there's talk of it, but I don't know. It's just an interesting concept. I also think that the way we think about, a lot of Chinese people think about the game is like, definitely if there's an advantage you can get from it, you can commoditize it for sure. So in a way, like, elo boosting is almost a legitimate business. It's really interesting. I don't know.
All right, and so I think what did I want to make a point about this? Shall? God, it was like a really good point too. Well, unfortunate. Rest in peace, that point.
You remember after we go off air, it's okay.
Yeah, that's gonna go straight towards Twitter afterwards with like, God damn it. So
it's all it's all just like a diabolical scheme to get res more followers. Like, man, if only I remembered. But It will be
You'll
on
just
at
have to
Razzleplasm
follow
after
me,
the
yeah.
show. If you're curious.
Oh god. Elo boosting, elo boosting, elo boosting. I'm trying so hard to remember, but it's just not gonna happen. So, I guess the real question is, I guess this doesn't even matter really. I guess what's this gonna happen? I was about to make, because that would just go into NA talk, and it's like, I don't really care if Tip goes to Worlds. That's not a question I'm about to ask, actually, because I just like, it doesn't really matter to me. So
What happens if Tip goes to Worlds, Raz?
they're just gonna get destroyed, that's why. Alright, I think that's really... Does anyone have anything they want to talk about quickly before we... I think we hit all the topics here.
I just wanted to say that TBQ and Flame are playing all of LGD's games this weekend. God bless.
Bringer
Oh
of
God,
bad
really?
news.
Yes, every
Well-
single one. Because Acorn's getting his visa done, and Xiaoxi played all last week, even though they had only one set. But whatever, you know.
Are they just trying to appease TBQ now? Is that just the
I
thing
don't
that's-
know if that's what they're doing, but it kind of seems like it.
It's
They're
just
probably
like,
still legitimately testing out, and I think there are probably still some synergy advantages with TBQ, as minimal as they might appear to be. And I do think they want to give TBQ a chance, because TBQ is like trying really hard, but I do feel like TBQ has had ample time. He's had like almost
Years.
4 complete splits now to improve, and he's always been a point of contention for the team, so...
Yeah. There was a time in which I saw him playing Rengar, and I was like, whoa, is he actually opening up his champion pool? This was during the preseason. And then, of course, I like literally told that to Kelsey, and she was like, I don't know.
And he's already tried to play other stuff, it just doesn't work.
Just
I mean,
never
I
works.
I don't know how you can like play that much on a team like LGD and just not get better.
Yeah, I mean, that's
so
kind of the
puzzling.
mystery. Like, it's not that he doesn't try other champions, he just is bad on all of them, except for Lee Sin.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Alright. I guess that's it for the episode. Let's just go into shoutouts here. So let's start with Michael, since you're on the farthest to my right here. Shoutouts.
Alright. Yeah, just shoutouts to the panelists and Esports Heaven as usual. I apologize for not being here last week. But yeah. Wait, was that my only episode off?
I apparently
Yeah.
make
I've had
weird
2
faces when I type. Anyway, keep going. Yeah.
Nope, I'm done. That's it. Someone else's turn.
That's just my horrible reenactment. Can't see Kelsey's face because, yeah. So, Kelsey, shoutouts.
So, shout out to the score. Shout out to Emily, who's been working really hard lately. Like, every time I talk to her, she's like, oh, I can't do this. I'm doing this jungle pathing thing.
I think you're underestimating my incredible obsession with support and jungle pathing, 'cause I actually really like doing it.
You know, actually, I think it comes to the point, like, when you watch too much League of Legends, that you just, like, stop looking at the lanes altogether, because it's always the same shit, and then you just want to, like, look
Exactly.
at other stuff. Like, that's what happens.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I lose, like, some aspect, and then when I look back and I watch the mid lane trades, and I'm like, wow, that's actually really interesting, because I'm just spending so much time looking at the mini-map. But sometimes, like, oh, that's an interesting way to trade that I didn't see before. But most of the time, it's just like, oh, we're going to kill the creep now.
It's laning.
Sometimes I literally just spend time during games and scrims, like, just, I don't even, like, control the camera anymore. I just, like, stick it onto the jungler, and I'm like, where does he choose to pressure the map, etc., etc.
You're just watching Diggy, you, like, top just getting first blooded and killed 3 times. Now he's killing the dogs.
Yeah, I mean, in some regards, watching jungle pathing can be boring, too.
A little bit, yeah.
So shout out to her, and also thank you to LGD and Oren and Reasony for helping me with my interview that came out today.
Both extremely nice gentlemen. Alright, now Emily, your shout out has actually just been done for you. Kind of.
I
A
know.
little bit.
So now we're closing the episode. Good
Hi,
So
my
shout
name's
outs,
Emily, and
talk
I really
about-
love jungle and support pathing. No, shout out to LOL Esports. What do I have coming up? I'm doing a Trundle article on support Trundle because
Oh,
it actually made me mad the amount of, like, disrespect, I guess, that I heard towards that pick, because it's been picked in LMS for quite some time. So look forward to that, I guess, if you like unconventional support picks. And then I'm doing yeah, and then I'm doing a CPL preview, and then a really cool article with a Brazilian mid laner. So that'll be fun too.
Yay.
So unfortunately, nothing China, but.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry.
Why do we even have you on this show?
Go over to your Brazil talk.
I'm a
Jeez.
fraud.
Just, hello, this is Brazil Talk with Shaka.
Okay, so, yeah, Raz.
Okay, shoutouts. Actually, on the topic of support Trundle, I want to do a little shout out to Cyrinos, former coach of Absolute in Oceania, because even I remember when he brought out the support Trundle in our Chiefs game, and I just looked at it and I was like, this is horrible. Wait, was that in our game? Yeah, it was. And it actually was really effective in what it was set out to achieve. So I like the idea that it's going around. The support role has really been a very flexible one. So, on that note, shout out to Diggy U. Shout out to all of these wonderful panelists. That's about it. Yeah, that's about it.